Today is Friday, April 18th, 2025, and this is Read Through the Bible.
This is a good day.
This is Good Friday.
Yeah. Going to have a service tonight. Looking forward to seeing many of you as we remember once again the death of Christ. It's crucial for our salvation.
Yes, and as we read Leviticus and see the limitations of the sacrificial system, we can be infinitely thankful for Christ's sacrifice that is infinitely better.
Yeah, I think about yesterday, particularly in chapter 20, the wages of sin is death. Mm-hmm. And we just saw Molech worship deserves death, and sexual sin deserves death, and just the terrible consequence of sin. And that was dealt with finality at the cross of Christ.
Right.
Okay, so to bring us into the context of Leviticus, we have been climbing this mountain.
Right.
So
going up the mountain.
How to come to God.
How to come to God. And we
5 chapters.
Sacrifices, priests, and purity.
And then chapter 16 is the Day of Atonement. And then from there, we're going to go down the same themes.
So, and how to live for God.
Yep. Purity has been the last couple days.
Yep.
Chapters 17 through 20. And then today, it's priests.
Right.
Yep. And then after this are going to be feasts. Mm-hmm. So these are the priests, and you need holy leadership. It's kind of the big concern here in terms of priests, how they live and how they dress, and their ministry needs to be pure, and their worship needs to be pure. So just think about this. These are the leaders leading the people of Israel in their worship. They need to be pure and holy.
Okay. All right. Chapter 21, verse 1. And the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, no one shall make himself unclean for the dead among his people, except for his closest relatives, his mother, his father, his son, his daughter, his brother, or his virgin sister, who is near to him because she has no husband. For her he may make himself clean. He shall not make himself unclean as a husband among his people, and so profane himself. They shall not make bald patches on their heads, nor shave off the edges of their beards, nor make any cuts on their body."
I don't have to work about making bald patches on my head. That's just kind of happening naturally.
I think about the medieval monks.
Yeah, exactly.
What did they do with this verse?
I don't know. That's exactly what they were doing. Yep.
Anyway, verse 6. "They shall be holy to their God, and not profane the name of their God. For they offer the Lord's food offerings, the bread of their God. Therefore, they shall be holy."
I think this is crucial, right? They shall be holy to offer up God's holy bread and the food offerings.
Right, and as leaders and examples in the community.
Yeah, this speaks about their married life, too.
Right. "They shall not marry a prostitute or a woman who has been defiled, neither shall they marry a woman divorced from her husband, for the priest is holy to his God. You shall sanctify him, for he offers the bread of your God. He shall be holy to you, for I, the Lord who sanctify you, am holy. And the daughter of any priest, if she profanes herself by whoring, profanes her father, she shall be burned with fire."
Wow. Speaks of the importance of priests just being holy in their conduct. And so also the high priest, verse 10. "The priest who's chief among his brothers," that's the high priest, "on whose head the anointing oil is poured, and who's been consecrated to wear the garment," that was like Leviticus 16 and the Day of Atonement, they put on their garments one day out of the year, "shall not let the hair of his head hang loose, nor tear his clothes. He shall not go into any dead bodies, nor make himself unclean, even for his father or for his mother. He shall not go out of the sanctuary, lest he profane the sanctuary of his God. For the consecration of the anointing oil of his God is on him. I am the Lord. And he shall take a wife in her virginity, a widow, or a divorced woman, or a woman who's been defiled, or a prostitute. These he shall not marry, but shall take as his wife a virgin of his own people, that he may not profane his offspring among his people, for I am the Lord who sanctifies him." I think it just speaks about just the priest and the high priest just can't be anybody. You can be disqualified from that role. And it's not that you can't come before God, but you just can't come before God as the high priest who needs to be pure and holy before all the people.
So like higher standards for them.
And now here's appearance, just like physically, they can't have any defects.
"And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron, saying, None of your offspring throughout their generations who has a blemish may approach to offer the bread of his God. For no one who has a blemish shall draw near, a man blind or lame, or one who has a mutilated face or a limb too long."
A limb too long.
Or a man...
My arm's like 5 feet long, so...
Or a man who has an injured foot, or an injured hand, or a hunchback, or a dwarf, or a man with a defect in his sight, or an itching disease, or scabs, or crushed testicles. No man of the offspring of Aaron, the priest who has a blemish, shall come near to offer the Lord's food offerings. Since he has a blemish, he shall not come near to offer the bread of his God. He may eat the bread of his God, both of the most holy and of the holy things, but he shall not go through the veil or approach the altar, because he has a blemish, that he may not profane my sanctuaries, for I am the Lord who sanctifies them. So Moses spoke to Aaron and to his sons and to all the people of Israel.
Yeah, so one of the ways that the priests were provided for was when the people brought their offerings. If it wasn't a burnt offering, which is totally consumed, it was a sin offering or guilt offering.
Or a grain.
Or grain offering. The priest could eat of the meat, or grain offering, they could eat of the bread, and that's the way they're supplied for. And a man who had a blemish of any of these things, he could still eat this, still providing for them. But in terms of coming before the Lord, a priest needed to be perfect, a perfect specimen.
I think because of pointing to Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and just Christ is our perfect high priest. Okay, and then it speaks about just his ministry here in verse 22 and following. The Lord spoke, saying, speak to Aaron and to his sons, so that they abstain from the holy things of the people of Israel, which they dedicate to me, so that they do not profane my holy name. I am the Lord. Say to them, if any one of all your offspring throughout your generations approaches the holy things that the people of Israel dedicate to the Lord, while he has an uncleanness, that person shall be cut off from my presence. I am the Lord. None of the offspring of Aaron who has a leprous disease or a discharge may eat of the holy things until he is clean. Whoever touches anything that's unclean through the contact of the dead, or a man who's had an emission of semen, and whoever touches a swarming thing by which he may be made unclean, or a person from whom he may take uncleanness, whatever his uncleanness may be, the person who touches such a thing shall be unclean until the evening, and shall not eat of the holy things unless he has bathed his body in water. In other words, right, when a priest comes, he just needs to make sure that he himself is even clean ritually in order to come. When the sun goes down, he shall be clean, and afterward he may eat of the holy things, because they are his food. He shall not eat what dies of itself, or is torn by beasts, and so make himself unclean by it. I am the Lord. He shall therefore keep my charge, lest they bear sin for it and die thereby when they profane it. I am the Lord who sanctifies them.
A layperson shall not eat of a holy thing. No foreign guest of the priest or hired worker shall eat of a holy thing. But if a priest buys a slave as his property for money, the slave may eat of it, and anyone born in his house may eat of his food. If a priest's daughter marries a layman, she shall not eat of the contribution of the holy things. But if a priest's daughter is widowed or divorced and has no child and returns to her father's house, as in her youth, she may eat of her father's food, yet no lay person shall eat of it. If anyone eats of a holy thing unintentionally, he shall add the fifth of its value to it and give the holy thing to the priest. They shall not profane the holy things of the Lord, the holy things of the people of Israel, which they contribute to the Lord, and so cause them to bear iniquity and guilt by eating their holy things, for I am the Lord who sanctifies them.
Yeah. Talking about who may eat. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and to the sons and all the people of Israel, and say to them, when any one of the house of Israel or of the sojourners in Israel presents a burnt offering as his offering for any of their vows or freewill offerings that they offer to the Lord, if it is to be accepted for you, it shall be a male without blemish of the bulls or the sheep or the goats. And we see this coming up in Malachi, when by this time the worship of Israel had so degenerated that they had brought these blemished animals as a sacrifice to the Lord. And just as priests need to be holy, so also the animals that are offered need to be holy and righteous and without blemish as well. Verse 20, you shall not offer anything that has a blemish, for it will not be acceptable for you. And when anyone offers a sacrifice of peace offerings to the Lord to fulfill a vow, or as a freewill offering, from the herd or from the flock to be accepted, it must be perfect. There shall be no blemish in it. Animals blind or disabled or mutilated or having a discharge or an itch or scabs, you shall not offer to the Lord or give them to the Lord as a food offering on the altar. You may present a bull or a lamb that has a part too long or too short for a freewill offering, but for a vow offering it cannot be accepted. Any animal that has its testicles bruised or crushed or torn or cut, you shall not offer to the Lord. You shall not do it within your land. Neither shall you offer as the bread of your God any such animals gotten from a foreigner, since there is a blemish in them. Because of their mutilation, they will not be acceptable for you.
Those blemished animals reminds me of Malachi, when the people say, "How have we robbed God?" And
Right.
he says, "When you've brought me the lame and the blind and the blemished animals."
Yep.
So, okay, anyway, verse 31. So you shall keep my...
Verse 26.
Oh, 26, sorry. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, when an ox or a sheep or a goat is born, it shall remain 7 days with its mother, and from the 8th day on it shall be acceptable as a food offering to the Lord. But you shall not kill an ox or a sheep and her young in 1 day. And when you sacrifice a sacrifice of thanksgiving to the Lord, you shall sacrifice it so that you may be accepted. It shall be eaten on the same day. You shall leave none of it until morning. I am the Lord.
So you shall keep my commandments and do them. I am the Lord. And
There's
shall not
a summary at the end again.
Yes. And you shall not profane my holy name, that I may be sanctified among the people of Israel. I am the Lord who sanctifies you, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord. So really, these two chapters speak about mostly priests and their qualifications to come before the Lord. They need to be pure in conduct. They need to be pure in appearance. And then in chapter 22, they need to be pure in their ministry, like coming clean, and in their worship, they need to be clean as well. So, simple outline of these. And on Monday, we will begin to talk about the feasts, which make Israel distinctive as well, just all the parties and the festivities that they're to have. But we will see you tomorrow in the Psalms. Bye-bye.
All right, goodbye.